Good morning, friends. It's me, Terry Lambertson, doing something a little different and new here in Hippie Chicks this morning. Because I know that very often we talk about all kinds of things that Christian women care about. And one of the things that I know that affects me and affects several of you, and probably more of you than I even know, but we're about to find out is that fibromyalgia is a real thing for women. And I was diagnosed 20 years ago, but 25 years ago now, actually. And even back then, the only reason that I got diagnosed is the person who caught it was a trauma dental person, as I had had trauma to my jaw, and in being treated by this specialist, he came to me one day and he said, I know what's wrong with you, and I know why these treatments are only lasting 3 or 4 days. And I was like, well, heck, enlighten me. And he said, you have this thing called fibromyalgia. And like nobody knew what it was. And, all of us were going to doctors. And, I literally had a doctor say to me once, well, you have fibromyalgia and it sucks to be you.
Oh, that's helpful.
Wasn't that helpful? But actually, the jaw guy found it and he sent me to Dr. Silver, who was in charge of the chronic pain clinic at Cedars-Sinai. And he actually started a magazine called Fibromyalgia Today, and he was one of the first people who was working large scale with patients that have fibromyalgia. We are blessed this morning to be able to talk to Coach JoJo Tabaris, and I've known her for a while now. And she did a post about fibromyalgia the other day that I pipsqueaked up on. And so now we found out that we had that in common. And JoJo has done a book, and yeah, she knows all kinds of stuff about it. So, JoJo, can you come on here and give us some of your background? What was going on with you? How did you get diagnosed? And what happened going forward after that?
Sure. So I think I had what they call fibro since I was a kid because I never remember having energy. I remember as a kid, my dad would send us to the front lawn to pick weeds. And after like 10 minutes, I was just like, how do you do this? How is my brother and my sister just doing this? And they're continuing. I'm like, I'm exhausted and I've been here 10 minutes. And I couldn't figure out what the problem was. And I was called lazy. Nobody believed that it was a real issue. And I was young. So, young people have energy, right? That's what I saw, but that wasn't what I experienced. But anyway, I lived my life, and as I got older, it got worse. And in my 20s, I remember having a conversation with my sister. We went to Balboa Park in Southern California, near where she lived. Do you know what that is?
Oh, wow. I come from the San Fernando Valley.
Oh
I
my gosh.
I was a native Californian for like 42 years.
Oh, wow. We lived there for a while, from 1977 to like 2008, I think is when we moved, something like that. But yeah, I went there and it's a lot of walking. It's
Yeah.
a lot of walking. And my daughter was young, and my husband took my daughter and all the other people, and my sister and I spent time in this hat store, and we tried on hats because that's all I had the energy to do. Okay. I was just like, I'm so tired and I don't understand why. And I went from doctor to doctor. And in the beginning, people were like, I don't know what's wrong with you. I think you're fine. It's just all in your head. And I'm sure you all have heard this, right? I mean, it's all in your head, it's not real. And I was just really frustrated with myself. And I felt bad about myself because clearly it was my fault, right? And so finally, and in my early 40s, I found a doctor who actually said, "Yeah, I think you have fibro, but I don't know what to do about it." So I'm like, "Well, thank you. That really that helps, right?" So I thought, all right. So I started researching, and that was about 21 years ago. I'm 63. And so I started researching about this, and I found a little bit of information that I thought might help. And so I started eating a little bit more protein because I realized that I was eating very little. And I did not like a lot of foods that had protein in it. I don't. I still don't like a lot of foods with protein in it. And if you don't have protein in your body, you don't have energy. You don't build muscle. You just, I mean, it's an epidemic actually with people. Older people don't get enough protein.
And actually a lot of people who don't like certain kinds of food because of taste or because of texture, that is a neurodivergent thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I do know that because my son is on the spectrum.
There you go.
Lots of things my son would not eat when he was young. But yeah, there are a lot of things that I just don't like. And so I realized that I wasn't having enough protein. When I started eating a little bit more protein, I started feeling a little bit better. And I kept researching and researching. And then finally I had they through a long story, but a series of miracles, thank you, Lord. They found cancer. I had fallopian tube cancer. I went in initially for one thing, which they all knew was gone. I don't know why they were looking for it, except God said, look for it to my doctor. I don't know. And of course they didn't find that uterine fibroid. I had that since my son was born. He's 26 now. And they didn't find that, but when then they found a cyst on my ovary, and I thought, why are we interested in this? Who cares? It doesn't hurt, nothing. And they said, oh, no, 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 we need to take that out because that could become cancerous. And I almost didn't have it done. I almost really didn't. And thank God I did because they took the ovary because it was intertwined. And they said, the doctor, the surgeon said, I just felt like I should take out your fallopian tube. Well, when they did the biopsy, I get a call from my doctor. This is never a good sign when you get a call from your actual doctor. She goes, well, you had cancer. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And that word, you hear that word and your brain just,
Right.
I didn't hear much of what she said after that. But she said, I'm sorry, we need to go take everything out because it is very unlikely that cancer started in your fallopian tube because it
Correct.
was precancerous cells. It was not even really cancer yet. She said it's very aggressive and very rare, and there are no symptoms until it is too late to save the woman. So I am a survivor, thank you, Lord, where no women really survive this because by the time you find it out, they can't save her. So I'm saved from this, but they went in because they didn't believe it and they took everything out. So, I'm holy. There's nothing left. And there was no cancer anywhere. So God saved my life, literally. And after that, you're in menopause, and ladies of a certain age, you know what happens when you're in menopause. Your body changes.
And it's completely different when you go into menopause naturally, right? Than when they do this surgery and it's just instantaneous,
Yeah.
right? You didn't get to do the perimenopausal kind
Oh,
of,
I did.
oh yeah.
I did. In fact, this was another God thing because I had had female problems for so long, and this solved a lot of those problems.
Oh, right.
I've gone through since my son was born, I was almost 37, and from 37 to I think it was like 50, 55, 57, whatever it was, when I had the surgery, it was horrible. I had horrible menopause symptoms. I mean, and it was not going away anytime soon. I'm like, this is so having the surgery was such a blessing in so many, I can't even tell you how many ways. But after the surgery, my body changed so much, so drastically. I did not change how I was eating. I did not change what I was doing. But all of a sudden, my fibro fatigue went from here to on the floor. I had no energy whatsoever. I was living my entire life on my couch. I had to rest before taking a shower.
Yeah, I know that one.
I'm sure you do. So many women with fibro, they know the same thing. I had to, when my husband had to bring a chair into the bathroom so that I could put my elbows on the counter and blow dry just the top of my hair, just the top of my hair, because the rest of it could be wild, but at least the top would be. Then I had to rest after that. I took 3 naps a day because having fatigue is just so exhausting.
Yeah.
Living your life on your couch is just very exhausting. And so I had to take like 3 naps a day. And I was living, I was not, I was existing.
Yeah.
I had no life. Okay. I couldn't do much for my family. I could barely cook. I couldn't clean. I couldn't work. You know, I had businesses that I was trying to run, but my brain didn't have enough energy to power a brain cell. I mean,
Oh
it
yeah,
was.
the fog. The fog gets so bad. Yeah.
And I got to the point, my weight creeped up. I was thin all my life until this. And my weight creeped up to the point where my rear end had its own zip code. And my son's car, we would drive. I would sit in the back because my son has long legs and my husband has long legs, and I'm 5 foot nothing and I wear children's shoes. So I was relegated to the back. But I could not get myself out of the back of the car because my butt couldn't fit. My son, this is so embarrassing. My son had to come around the car,
And push you.
no, yank me
Oh,
out.
yank you out. Oh,
Yeah.
good gosh.
And that's the way I got out of the car. And it was just absolutely exhausting my entire life. And I did nothing. So in 2020, after researching all of this, and I did feel a wee bit better with more protein, but it wasn't enough. And what I found out later in 2020, I found a coach because I was like, my whole life was like, I just want to fit better in my clothes. I don't want my son to yank me out of the bed.
Right?
I want I want my back end to not look like it belongs to another person. You know what I'm saying? That's all I wanted. That's it. I was very vain. I will say. I'm sorry, Lord, but that's my initial thing. That's what I wanted. And my body was so weird and so messed up and the fibro and everything. My coach worked with me because God didn't make cookie cutter people. Your
Right.
body, my body, even if we both have fibro, we don't have it the same way. We don't have it the same reason even because, fibro is not a real, it's not like they can test for it. It's what they call it when they don't know what else it is.
Yeah, it's kind of like irritable bowel. That is the diagnosis that says your stomach is really messed up. We don't know why, and we really
Right. You're on your own.
we really can't help you.
And so, I mean, it's like having a stomach ache. Yeah, you may have it for different causes, different reasons. And so they don't know what to do. And so I had to find what worked for me. And when I was finally able to lose the weight, I did feel better because then I wasn't carrying 40 pounds on my 5 foot nothing body. That made a big difference. But I'll tell you something, that was not the biggest difference. The biggest difference was the nutrition that I was getting. And my energy now, I'm 63. I have more energy now than I did when I was 27. And I don't think I would be diagnosed with fibro anymore. That's me.
Wow.
I have a client because I help people. Initially, most people, 75% of Americans are overweight.
Right.
So initially, I usually help people with that. But I've had clients who are not overweight and extremely unhealthy, fatigue off the charts, even though they were not carrying that extra. And it's because we as a nation are not getting the nutrition that we used to. The food industry is complicit. Do you know that they put things in our food that they have to take out to sell it to other countries because it's illegal there?
Why does the FDA have a acceptable amount of mouse and rat excrement in our food? Because for you and me and anybody else with a brain, that allowable amount is
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah,
Nothing.
but it's the chemicals that they put in. It's the artificial this and that. It is and they do that on purpose because they want you to be addicted to their food so that they keep selling it to you. And then you get it's almost like a physical addiction to some of these things. Other things we are so um unhealthy as a name. It now has a name. So it's called metabolic dysfunction.
Oh, wow.
We are it's at the cellular level. We 90% of Americans are metabolically unhealthy.
Right, because there's like microplastics
There's
in
all kinds of
in our
junk in there.
bodies now, right?
Mhm. So when I realized that I was able to get my body healthy, and that's the reason why I feel better. Now, I have some clients who do have fibro. I'm not saying it cures fibro. Once you have a problem in your life, you may not be able to cure it. Okay. But you can reverse the four major things that cause 9 out of 10 leading causes of death in America, those four things. And one of those is diabetes, another is blood pressure and cholesterol. So things like this
Right.
contribute to 9 out of 10, the 10th being car accidents. So, we can't help with that. But we can help with all the other things. And sometimes if you get that before it gets too bad, you can reverse those things. So with me, I don't feel like I have it anymore. With one client, she does. Okay. But she's so much better now. She actually sent like a little testimonial for my book, Faith Over Fibro, that I just released this week. Because I've helped her. She now can live life. She does have some flares, but they're much less severe. She has less pain and she has a lot less fatigue. And it does make a difference. And we are just this country, even though we have so many things available to us, most people don't realize how unhealthy they are until they wake up with a problem. So I have a few stories for you just to share. So first of all, my husband. My husband was overweight his whole life. He ate big portions, a lot of junk food. His idea of a diet, he's pointing, his
Oh
idea of a
man,
diet.
my husband has the diet of a rabid raccoon. I was so happy when Walmart started delivering here because I hated grocery shopping with him because
We do
he
that too. We
put
do that
all
too.
this junk
Yeah,
in there. And look, I'm his wife. I'm not his mama. I'm not going to tell him what to do.
right.
Um,
You
but yeah,
can't. We
but
can't.
but seriously, yeah, he still do way too much of the snack food stuff? Yes, he does. But at least he's not finding six other things that he hasn't tried and now has to
Yeah,
have.
yeah,
So,
yeah. So my husband he had horrible diabetes for decades. He had very high blood pressure. We changed doctors one time, and one of the doctors said, "Oh my gosh, why didn't your previous doctor send you to the hospital for your blood pressure?" I was like, what do you mean? It was so high. He would have sent my husband to the now, fortunately, by that point it was lower.
right.
But I mean, it was bad for decades. And finally,
I actually had to leave a medical practice because everything I would complain about, he would say fibro, 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 fibro. And I looked at my husband and I said, you know what? One of these days, it's not going to be fibro. He's not going to run it down and it's going to kill me.
and it happens more than you think. I hear so many stories. Doctors don't know. They are not trained in nutrition. My doctor was trained in nutrition. I asked her, how many courses did you take in nutrition? She said, oh, two or three. And she never told me, good golly, you should probably start to lose weight. She never said, I asked her, and she didn't have much help. So, anyway, my husband, I got him healthy in 2020. I lost 40 pounds and I got healthy and I felt awesome. And I helped him lose 60 pounds and he's not even pre-diabetic anymore. And
Wow.
his blood pressure is more under control with cholesterol, everything. Okay. That was 2020. 3 years ago, he woke up blind in one eye because the damage to his eyes that diabetes caused happened 10 to 15 years before that.
And nobody caught it.
You couldn't know. He went to have his eyes checked. Nope, they didn't. You have to look for it in a certain way. So he woke up blind in that eye, and we've been dealing with eyeballs for the last 3 years. And if y'all don't know, JoJo does not do eyeballs well. There's a reason God put eyelids. Okay, we're not supposed to see all this.
Right, right,
And it's
right.
like, it's been so hard for me to deal. I don't know how he's done it because he's had shots in his eyes, he's had surgeries, he's okay. Yeah. And he has to for the rest of his life be monitored and have maybe more surgeries, more shots, and all this other lovely stuff because the damage was done already. But I'm lucky because my husband is still here. So I was talking a couple years ago on Messenger with a friend of mine. While we were chatting on Messenger, I'm gonna cry. She got a phone call from her daughter that her husband just died, dropped dead. He was fine from the outside that you could tell. But he died shoveling his daughter. His daughter was pregnant, like 8, 9 months pregnant, and he was shoveling her driveway for her. And he just died of a heart attack right there and then. That was
Wow.
it. And she had been trying to get him to talk to me about losing his visceral fat in his belly. And God bless him, he prioritized his family's financial future and he just concentrated on his work to provide for his family. But from that point, his wife didn't have a husband,
Right.
his children didn't have a father,
Mhm.
and they didn't have an income.
Yeah.
So you don't know when something is just going to happen. And either you have something like that where he's just gone, or you have something like my husband where he's got to deal with this for the rest of his life. So I am really passionate about helping people before they get to that point because I can't turn my husband's issue around. I can't.
Right. Right.
Okay. But
Right.
I can prevent somebody else from having to deal with it. I can't change somebody's who's passed away. I can't, there's certain things that I cannot reverse, but I can help somebody reverse the things that cause that. And he is not the only, if you think I thought it was rare that my husband woke up blind in one eye, right? We went to you're taking your head, so you know. I went to the retinal specialist office, and that's all there is in there. They're not regular eye, uh,
Right.
it's
Right.
just all specialists that do surgeries for there are, I don't know, 5 physicians that do the surgeons. It's a huge place and they have everybody in there woke up blind in one eye. And I asked the guy, I said, I don't understand. Why does this happen? If they're on blood pressure and blood sugar diabetes medication, why are they waking up blind in one eye? And he said, because they still have diabetes. The medications control the numbers.
Right.
They do not cure
Right.
the disease.
Right. Exactly.
But
Exactly.
I can help with that. And I don't want anybody else to go through some of these things. I just found out too, and this really touches my heart because my mom just passed away 8 months ago.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
She had Alzheimer's. Do you know that they're saying Alzheimer's is caused by metabolic dysfunction? If and my mom was thin.
Well, look, just those two words used together, metabolic and dysfunction. Okay, if your body isn't working properly at the cellular level, which is exactly what we're saying,
Mhm.
right? Then yeah, trouble is going to follow at some level. I mean, and you've touched on so many things that have made me think about things that I hadn't put together right now. I've had irritable bowel since my mid-20s, and we now know that that is a precursor to fibromyalgia. So when the big trauma happened, which was one of my patients made the psychotic break and tried to kill me.
My gosh.
Yeah. I was attacked by a mental patient who had been a Navy SEAL. Um, and
Wow.
and the only reason why I'm here to tell the tale is that he attacked me right across from the lunchroom where all of us employees ate. So there were people in there having their lunch, and they came flying out of there and got him to the ground. So, I mean, I would have been better off if he had actually broken my neck. I would have been better off if he had actually broken my jaw. Um, I ended up 3 years after this, having to have my neck literally collapsed on itself. And I woke up one morning and my chin was on my chest and I couldn't lift it up and I had lost the use of my right arm. I just woke up like that. So they had to completely put my neck back into place using cadaver bone and a steel tree and all kinds of, and I'm really, really super fortunate because this was done in 2003 and I'm still trucking with it. Are there
Wow.
are there changes since then? Yes, I had a fusion, so that always causes bones to shift as that ages. But yeah, God has just kept me going. When I was a kid, they always told me that I had iron poor blood and they made me take these horrible tablets. But now I'm thinking, okay, well, I had to be lethargic, right? I had to have that low energy that you spoke about as a child. I was a chronically ill child. Um, and my favorite story about somebody telling me it was in my head,
Oh,
I went to see my first rheumatologist. And this is at Geisinger in Pennsylvania, which is a huge medical conglomerate. And the first thing this guy did was accuse me of drug seeking because they had me on 15 to 18 pills a day. I was a zombie. Um, so he accused me of drug seeking, and I said, look, if I wanted drugs, we all know that we can just go to Benton and on any street corner, I could have whatever I wanted. I wouldn't be sitting here. And then he said, well, it's all in your head. And I said, well, if you look at your records right there, you will see that I spent 3 days in your behavioral care unit. And they didn't find it either.
people just, if they don't, especially back then, they didn't know, they don't deal with it, they don't have a clue what that feels like.
Right. There has only ever been one medicine patented strictly to treat fibromyalgia, and 80% of us cannot tolerate it. And there is no research going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And the numbers of people who have this thing,
and
well,
it's mostly women.
mostly women, but
Hmm.
I do know some men.
Yeah, but mostly women.
But mostly
Hmm.
women. Most of us have experienced a trauma from the shoulders up, because that is usually what feeds the worst flare you have ever had. and keeps you doctoring until you find somebody somewhere who knows how to deal with it. And I'm like, I'm on three medications today, you know, and I live a very full life. I mean, I take care of a 2-year-old 2 or 3 days every week, and now he's starting to give up naps, and that was what made it almost doable. Is that he would nap and I would nap with him. But now there are days where we're just, psh, 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 from the moment he hits the door until somebody picks him up.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think those of us who remain active have found ways that work for us. What is it that you have in this book um, that works for the most people? Because yeah, chemically we're all just our own
Yeah.
little
Our body
whatever.
is different and our lifestyle is different and everything is different. So not everything works for everybody. But I have a lot of information in there about nutrition. I have a lot of information in there about prayer. I have some prayer cards. I have some scriptures. I have there's some music, links to praise and worship music. Because um, part of what I found really helps is prayer and getting closer to God and giving that to God, because you can't do anything about some of the things in
Working
your
on
life.
mindset, working
Yeah.
on my
Well, not even just
mindset.
mindset, but you're keeping your mind on God. Because if you when you're going through so much junk in your body, it's very hard. It's kind of I had uh um sermon at my church, and the guy was talking about, was a guest speaker, but he was talking about, and this is the visual that he said, God is here and we pay attention to God, but then Satan, the enemy, is over here. And he's always telling us, okay, here's all the bad stuff that's going on. Here's pain, and there's fatigue, and there's this and that, and I feel useless, and all of this other stuff, and you're lazy, and you're lying, and you're making it up, and all of this stuff. And so you take your eyes off of God and you put your eyes more on what the enemy is talking about, what we need to do is have God first and foremost. And so I have a lot in the book about prayer, about different scriptures. There's praise and worship music in there, but there's also stuff about nutrition and laughter. That's another thing that I found. I am almost like I used to say when I had no energy that I'd be a stand-up comedian, but I'm getting older now, so I do it sitting down because I love humor and I think it really helps. So I have some what I call JoJoisms that I wrote when I was going through all of this, and they're funny and they're different ways of keeping your mind on the positive. So it's only $27. It's
Right.
for
Well,
all of
and we know that when we laugh, we change our
yes.
brain chemistry, right? We release serotonin. Yeah,
And
yeah.
when you see the possibility, when you see the good, and you see, and you're there's, gratitude journal is in there too. When you see the good things and you're grateful for certain things that God had, like I was grateful that God saved my life, but I didn't feel good. And so I was focusing on the I don't feel good and not as much on the God saved my life. And there's a reason God saved my life. Okay, there's a reason. And there's a reason for every one of you out there that you are here. Even if you feel so tired and in so much pain, and there's maybe other stuff going on in your life, there's a reason you're here, and there's a reason you need to feel your best, that you can live better with fibro, or maybe like me, get rid of a lot of it or all of it. But for most, you can live much better. You can. And the book helps you go through all of that. But then also at the end, I do have a link to, I have a form that you can fill out if that's not enough to get you feeling great. And you can fill that out and you and I can talk about how I can help you one-on-one. But
That's awesome.
just the information is going to make you feel so much better because once you stop focusing on what the enemy wants you to focus on, you feel better.
And don't you think, because this is a big part of my story, that, God uses pain to bring us into purpose.
Yes.
And once you are doing that purpose, right, like I do here every single day, like you do where you're at every single day, living in your purpose,
Yeah.
which so few women get the opportunity to do or really walk out, because unless you have a community of like-minded Christian women, you're not gonna formulate your purpose all on your own and keep it going
It's
all on your
hard.
own, right? Because
Yeah.
every other day I want to leave Facebook, right? And what keeps you in that calling is that living in your calling, living in
In
your
your purpose.
purpose takes all that other stuff out of your way.
And I'll tell you something too, because community is so
Community,
important. We were
gotta
not
have it.
built, yeah, we were not built to be by ourselves.
Right,
And I am very blessed because I have mentor coaches that are pouring into me. They're all pastors and ministers.
right, right, right.
And they,
We have to be fed in
yes.
order to
Mhm.
do what we do. Jojo, thank you so much for coming to see this. I'm coming and doing this for us.
Absolutely.
Um,
I had one other thing, if you'll indulge
sure,
me, just
sure,
one other thing I wanted to
sure.
share because I have my T-shirt on. This is the
Ah,
name of my business, Heaven and Health.
oh, I love that.
I wanted to leave everybody with this because heaven is where we go when we leave this earth, and health is how well we live while we're still here.
Absolutely.
And this is what God wants for us because we all have work to do and we don't want to be gone prematurely. And we want to be able to live as best we can while we're here.
Right. All right, ladies, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me and Coach JoJo. We will get this up and loaded on the website, and we'll leave you some links underneath it where you can contact JoJo and how you can get her materials. This is the first one of these I'm doing, ladies, and I'm hoping as time goes on to bring you more opportunities of this type. If there's a certain subject you guys are interested in hearing about, please get into my messenger and let me know what that is, and I will hunt up an appropriate person if it isn't me. All right, y'all have a great day. Love you, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you so much.
Okay.